Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all measurable demographics, welcome to the debut episode of the show on Beyond Ringside Radio Network and the Beyond Ringside app, also on TuneIn. If you have an Apple device, or if you have an Apple device, just switch to Android, make life easier for everybody. I am the voice, Ted Guinness, the host of this little shindig happening every Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. After SmackDown goes off the air, I go live. And who is the voice, Ted Guinness? Let me give you a quick introduction for those of you who haven't heard me before, don't know who I am. I was the last and longest running ring announcer for WWE Developmental Territory Deep South Wrestling out in McDonough, Georgia. From there, I spent a while bouncing around Georgia, Alabama, and South and North Carolina, ring announcing, working shows, getting involved in the world of professional wrestling. And the final year of my 8-year journey in the world of professional wrestling, I was known as the voice of the underground during Global Championship Wrestling's tremendous feud of 2012, the Underground versus GCW. Obviously, I was the voice of the Underground, which means I was on the side that, I don't know, depending on the way 2012 ended, I don't know if it was the side that won or lost, but so I've done quite a few things in the business. I've been around quite a large number of the people that make this business spin, as it was. So I do kind of have a little bit of credibility, and I'm not just one of these guys sitting in his mom's basement talking about professional wrestling. I've been in the business. I've been in the locker rooms. I know what that atmosphere is like. Do I know everything that's going on in professional wrestling? Of course not. I live in Boise, freaking Idaho. I am so far removed from professional wrestling, from the locker rooms and from all of that. No, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do have opinions based on what I see, and that's essentially what this show is for me to give you my opinion, and if I say something that you agree with or disagree with, guess what? This is the only show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network that is completely open door policy when it comes to the phones. This show is essentially for you, the wrestling fan, the WWE fan who has suffered through Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, now on Thursdays, the pay-per-views, the really bad angles, the bait and switches, and just all the horrible stuff that you've had to sit through. And it hasn't been all horrible. Let's just go ahead and get that right out of the way. There has been a lot of great moments over the past couple of years, and fans like to talk about that as well. So if you want to join the program, very simple. First and foremost, before I give out the phone number, this is a PG show. I know that there are a few shows on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network that tilt to the explicit side. I am not one of them. So when I give you the number, when you call in, check your profanities at the door. Otherwise, you will get bounced faster than a Divas match on Monday Night Raw. If you want to get on the program and discuss anything that I'm talking about tonight, or anything that I might not have covered that you might be interested in, the phone number is 208-643-0102. That's 208-643-0102. 0102. That is the phone number if you want to get on the show. And what better way to debut a new show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network? What better time than on the road to WrestleMania? WrestleMania 31 coming up Sunday, March 29th, 2015 at Levi's Stadium, the home of the San Francisco 49ers. That is in Santa Clara, California. Don't call it San Francisco. It is south of the city by the bay. And as of Monday, I haven't checked since Monday, but tickets are still available. including floor seats in the 06 section down on the floor, which is right next to the entrance ramp. So there are still some good tickets available if you are interested in heading to the Bay Area for WrestleMania 31. If you're going to WWE Fan Access, the first session is Thursday, March 26, 5 p.m. at the San Jose Convention Center. Being a native of the San Francisco Bay Area, that's where I grew up before I ended up in Atlanta. I'm going to give you advice. If you're going to that 5 o'clock session on Thursday, you're going to want to either be in a hotel within walking distance, or if you had to get a hotel 10, 15, maybe even 20 miles outside of the convention center or Levi's Stadium, leave as early as possible. Traffic in San Jose is horrible. I mean, it's not New York bad. For all of my friends that live out in the South, that live in the Birmingham and the Atlanta area, for all of you that bitch about traffic, you guys don't know what traffic is. Go to LA, go to the San Francisco Bay Area, and try to drive around even as late as 3:30 in the afternoon. That's when rush hour starts. Rush hour ends sometime after 9:30. It's crazy out there. So if you're going, please go early. Please be careful, and definitely have a good time. WrestleMania Access runs the entire weekend leading up to WrestleMania 31. WrestleMania 31, as the card is starting to develop before our very eyes, we're starting to see exactly what is going to be presented at the Showcase of the Immortals, and it is being headlined by one of the most controversial main events in WrestleMania history over the past 10, 15 years. And that is Roman Reigns, the winner of the 2015 Royal Rumble, taking on the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar. And the controversy comes from the fact that there is a very vocal, very sizable portion of the WWE fan base. Now, notice I'm not going to say WWE Universe because that term turns my stomach, but the WWE fan base, there is a very, and it's almost a vocal majority. It's almost 50-50 that think Daniel Bryan should be back in the main event at WrestleMania. That's something we can talk about. 208-643-0102. I'm going to definitely come back and touch on that a little bit. Which side of the fence do you sit on? Are you on the side that Daniel Bryan should be in the main event at WrestleMania 31? Or do you think that it should be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar one-on-one? Let Roman Reigns show what he can do if he beats Brock Lesnar to handle the pressure of being the champion and carry the company on his shoulders. Which side of the fence do you sit on? That's the question that I want to ask. This is the history in the making right here. The match that can be essentially called the final battle between WWE and WCW. WWE COO Triple H, taking on the last remnant of WCW that mattered. First off, before I even go farther, he's the last remnant of WCW that mattered, that has never stepped in a WWE ring. He will be making his WWE debut on the grandest stage of them all. He is the franchise, the icon, Sting. Triple H, Sting, WWE versus WCW, one final battle. I'm going to go on the record right here and say that out of the two matches that I have announced, the two main events that I have announced so far on this program, on the show, Triple H and Sting deserve to end WrestleMania 31. I am normally a proponent of having the championship match being the final match of the show, especially at WrestleMania, because that is your most important title. Here's the problem with that. Brock Lesnar has only defended that title a handful of times on pay-per-view. Prior to that, Daniel Bryan only defended the WWE World Heavyweight Championship once before he was injured and put on the shelf. Let's face it, folks. In 2014, the WWE title lost a ton of stock. And I can hear people saying that, well, with Brock being off TV and only defending the title as a prize fighter, that would work maybe for a very short run. But this has basically been SummerSlam, folks. This has been a majority of the summer, the end of the summer, fall, and into winter, and now we're just getting into springtime. And how many times has Brock defended that title? 4, maybe? It doesn't add up to me. When you look at Triple H versus Sting, the history between the companies, the things that Triple H said to Sting at Fastlane, guys like me put guys like you out of business. And that was especially true when WWE and Vince McMahon bought WCW. They tried to bring in a number of WCW guys, and through whatever creative mishap happened between Vince McMahon and his creative team, the invasion angle fell completely flat, and they had to rush a conclusion at that Survivor Series where the WWE finally beat the alliance of WCW versus ECW and put them on the shelf. There is something to be said, especially with the era of sports entertainment. Take away the professional wrestling aspect of it. As we're looking at sports entertainment, as Vince McMahon likes to present to the fan base, there is something said for iconic imagery. And I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you this question. I want to ask, what would be a more iconic visual now and in the future? Would it be Brock Lesnar and or Roman Reigns standing on the corner turnbuckles, holding the belt up with pyro going off as WrestleMania goes off the air? Or does Sting or Triple H standing on the corner turnbuckle, exhausted, hand held high in triumph? Which one of those are a more lasting image to you in your mind? Is it Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar, or is it Triple H or Sting closing out WrestleMania 31? I personally think that Sting Triple H, that is the only way to end not only WrestleMania, but it's the only way truly to bring Sting finally into the WWE fold, to come into the main event, to do something that he is never going to have an opportunity to do again. Let's face it, Brock Lesnar's already headlined a couple of WrestleManias. He did WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, Washington, when he beat Kurt Angle for the WWE title. I think that was 19 out in Seattle. And now he's headlining this one. Roman Reigns is a young cat. Young, big, strong, charismatic, little green. He's got a big future ahead of him. There's chances he can headline another WrestleMania, and you can still get that moment out of him. Sting making his debut appearance at WrestleMania, taking on the power icon of WWE as it stands right now with Triple H. It's a message of respect to Sting for all that he's done through his history with WCW and even TNA. They're going to nod to it behind the scenes. Obviously, this is WWE, so there's going to be a 14-year gap where they're not going to be able to explain where Sting was, because obviously Vince is not going to point down to his competition and say, oh yeah, he was down there. Even if it's to bury them, he's not even going to acknowledge his competition. That's not Vince's style. So with the respect, with the iconic imagery, to me it makes sense. Triple H Sting ending WrestleMania 31. A couple of matches that are still developing. They're not yet confirmed, so we're not going to announce them as confirmed yet. But the angle with the United States Championship, Rusev the champion, needing to grant John Cena a match for the U.S. Championship. Otherwise, John Cena doesn't make it to WrestleMania. They're probably going to figure out something where Cena snaps because they're starting to tear him down. Cena's going to snap. He's going to do something like Seth Rollins did to Edge to get the authority back, and that's going to, hey, there's your match. So that's easily written off and explained. That's almost confirmed. It probably will be made either this Monday or the following Monday, the week before WrestleMania. We're 24 days away from WrestleMania 31. Another match developing is the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. And it's amazing that looking down this card, the way that I just typed up my notes, that I have the U.S. Championship and the Intercontinental Championship stacked side by side, which tells me that finally WWE is making their secondary titles important again. They're starting to develop interest in them, and they're starting to use them to elevate stars, kind of what they had to do back in the Attitude Era. I think certain things are starting to click. Looking at the participants in the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, the Lunatic Fringe Dean Ambrose, Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, Luke Harper, and Bad News Barrett at this point, with Barrett being the defending champion. Now, Dolph announced that he was in tonight. I think Truth announced that he was in tonight on SmackDown. I wasn't really paying that much attention. But it looks like those are going to be the 6 competitors for the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. And I can't tell you how glad I am that there is going to be a ladder match of meaning back at WrestleMania. I mean, all the way back to WrestleMania 21. And I watched the original Money in the Bank last night. And a couple of weeks ago, I actually watched WrestleMania X7, X8, Hardy's, Edge and Christian, Dudley's, setting the standard for ladder matches at WrestleMania, and then the Chris Jericho idea of Money in the Bank, where the winner wins a guaranteed contract for a title shot within a year, which, by the way, the Money in the Bank concept's kind of run its course, but it's important to have that ladder match because for 2 reasons. One is you're going to have a match with a lot of ebbs and flows, highs and lows for the crowd to react to. They're going to be on their feet for the entire thing. It's going to give the crowd really something to grab onto and fire up. And then you can bring out something like another rumored match that's coming out, AJ Lee and Paige versus the Bellas, which, no disrespect to AJ Lee and Paige because they are the women's division of WWE, but having to share a main event spotlight with the Bellas, that's brutally painful. But going back to the ladder match concept, it gives 6 competitors who otherwise may not have a shot to make the show. It gives them the opportunity to really let everything out on the line and just go for it and really entertain the crowd. Now, the one thing I'm a little concerned about is Daniel Bryan's health being booked into a match like this, especially coming off of surgery where it took him a very long time to recover. I don't know if Daniel Bryan should be in this match. And this is not from an angle standpoint. This is a legitimate concern for one human being on another human being. I know that, if he wasn't cleared to wrestle, he wouldn't be wrestling, and I understand that. But, I mean, wrestling in a one-on-one or a tag team match is a whole nother animal than getting hit with ladders, getting thrown from ladders, getting hit by people, thrown from ladders, getting hit by ladders, thrown by people, getting thrown from... I mean, you see where I'm going with this. There's so many twists and turns and dangerous things that can happen that it's just not worth putting somebody who really essentially could still be a top star if anyone ever got behind him. It's not worth putting him in that match. I would love to see him actually in the other announced match, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. There would be an opportunity to put Daniel Bryan in, protect him and give him an opportunity to have another WrestleMania moment if he was able to win the Battle Royal. We don't know all the competitors that are in there yet, and we probably won't know until the match actually starts, so I'm not even going to try to run down potential competitors for that match. Another match they've been building to, and I'm kind of thinking that there's going to be stipulations to this one. Bray Wyatt, who has done a phenomenal job starting before Fastlane with these eerie promos about, when I first saw you, and I was scared. And from the get-go, he was talking about The Undertaker. But when Fastlane, when they did that segment where he came out in the coffin with The Undertaker's music and the Druids and the lighting, and he cut that promo and finally let the world in on pretty much what everybody already knew, is that he was talking to The Undertaker. It kind of led me to think that if Undertaker does come back, and they wouldn't be going forward with the angle if he wasn't able to come back in some form or fashion, I'm thinking they're leading this one up to be a casket match, because with a casket match, and especially against someone with Bray Wyatt's style, again, you're in a position where you have a guy who's pushing north of 50 in there with a young stud, but he's more of a ground and pound type guy instead of a lot of high spots, instead of a lot of big moves. He's more Jake the Snake Roberts-ish. He's more psychological, thinks about things a lot more. So it gives WWE to get a chance to give the WrestleMania audience The Undertaker, especially after the loss to Brock Lesnar last year and the ending of the streak. It gives them the opportunity to put The Undertaker in a match with a guy who can protect him. You don't have to do a lot of big things. Of course, there's going to be, because it's WrestleMania and they're going to dig something out. And I'm sure they're going to run through it quite a few times before they actually pull it out on the show. But, using the casket match where there's a lot of pushing and shoving and time wasting, you can fill the allotted time that you have for your match without having to really put yourself through a lot of physical torture. And I think if this match does happen, and it sounds like it's going to, and it sounds like The Undertaker's not going to actually respond until WrestleMania, till the match actually starts itself, I do expect that it will be a casket match. So that remains to be seen. That's something interesting to think about. And then the other rumored match, which it looks like it's going to happen, they're pointing to it with a big sign that says, hey, guess what? This is going to be a match at WrestleMania. It looks like, and this is still rumored, so we're not going to confirm it yet, it looks like Randy Orton will be taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. So looking down the card of the already announced and still rumored and not fully announced yet, you're looking at 3 major championships. You're looking at history in the making. You're looking at the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which is WrestleMania moment in a box. And you're actually looking at a tremendous one-on-one match with Randy Orton and Seth Rollins. This is a card that for $9.99 for the WWE Network, that's going to be around 4 hours or so. It's really shaping up, and there may still be room for one more match, possibly a tag team match that actually may end up being the pre-show with Tyson Kidd and Cesaro defending the titles against an unknown tag team at this point. Please don't let it be the Ascension. Nothing against the Ascension, but they're not ready, and it would be a mistake to try to rush the tag team title belts on a team that's relatively young and still trying to find their own way. It's not the right time. So all I ask, please, if it's going to be anybody, let's give it the Usos, because they can pump up the crowd to start the show. 29 minutes after the top of the hour. If you want to get on the show, anything that you want to talk about within the realm of WWE, 208-643-0102 is the phone number. I am the Void, Stud Guinness. This is the show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Jon Stewart from The Daily Show on Monday Night Raw. train wreck, or brilliant.
Hey everyone, this is the Cause, Robert Cosper, host of Cause and Effects Thursday Night Radio Throwdown. This is your invitation to join me, along with the Effects Stuart Couch, Mad Dog Dan Sawyer, and all of the craziness that is C&E, right here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. It's wrestling radio with a twist, and some might just say with a twist of lime when the bar is open. Cause and Effect, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Hey, this is Stan Grubb for Wrestle Rage Radio right here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself and Smart Rage as we discuss the professional wrestling business from WWE, TNA, and all things in between. We'll have an interview here or there. We'll see what we can do to just keep you entertained. And along the way, we're going to have to bring up some emotion and make you think. That's what we like to do. So join us here on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you at Wrestle Rage.
There we go. Always helps when you turn the right knob. 23 to the top of the hour here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am the voice, Ted Guinness. This is the debut episode of the show. And if you are interested in getting into the conversation, the phone number, 208-643-0102. For those of you listening on the Beyond Ringside website, there is a chat room. And I am actually paying attention to it. I have learned from the man who put this radio station together. Yes, Fast Eddie Lane, this is the only time that I'm ever putting you over on this show, buddy. I have learned chat room must monitor. He calls it monitor 4. I just call it the chat room. This past Monday night, Jon Stewart was a guest on Monday Night Raw. And if you're like me, most of the time when you hear guest host on Monday Night Raw, you groan, you reach for the nearest bottle of Pepto-Bismol and Tums, and you pray for a miracle. Because most of the time that WWE brings in these celebrity guest hosts, it's a bunch of people that are just trying to fulfill a lifelong fantasy or whatever. They're not very good. They don't really know the product. Does anybody remember Jewel being a guest host on Monday Night Raw? Who the hell is Jewel and what does she know about WWE? Does anyone remember Jeremy Piven making an ass of himself on Monday Night Raw as a guest host? When they announced it was going to be Jon Stewart doing his version, or Seth Rollins doing his version of The Daily Show, and Jon Stewart was going to make an appearance, the first thing that popped into my head was this is going to be just as bad as Dennis Miller hosting the Slammies a few years ago. And I'm gonna admit I did not have great faith going into it, but the segment started. Seth bored the crowd. Stewart came out. They had a little bit of an exchange, and then this is what happened.
You want to come into my ring and try to make a fool out of me? No, I don't, and I apologize for that. I could not. I would never make a fool. How could I make a fool out of a man dressed like a SWAT team stripper with Lady Gaga's hair? How could I do that? I'm not here to do that. I'm your friend. I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. I'm old school. I'm not worried about you. I'm from New Jersey. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm from New Jersey. Let me say this about New Jersey. You think we're worried about the curb stomp? This is New Jersey. We use the curb stomp. That's how we greet each other in the morning. In the morning.
So far, you have a comedian basically destroying the guy with the Money in the Bank contract. Now, common sense in this industry says you don't do that. But with Stewart, he has automatically captured my interest. And quite frankly, it's one of those situations I want to hear more of. And let's do that right now.
For brunch. That's a Jersey brunch. Settle down, Slick. I'm old school. I remember the wrestlers that earned it.
Note right there the word that he just used. Not sports entertainers, wrestlers. So right there, I'm thinking, okay, here's a guy who understands professional wrestling. And he went and proved it as he continued on.
Bruno Sammartino. Huh? Gorilla Monsoon, the greats who earned their titles, who fought their way up. You never fought your way up like the great Mick Foley. You never went up against the establishment like the great Stone Cold. You never fought through injury after injury after injury to become the legend that is The Undertaker. You never did that.
And right there, that whole set right there, where he invoked the name of Bruno Sammartino, when he invoked the name of Gorilla Monsoon, Mick Foley, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, I'm sitting at this point when I'm watching this for the first time, and I'm thinking, there is almost no way he's ad-libbing, or he's not ad-libbing during this promo, because I'm sure that the WWE gave him a couple of bullet points with a couple of wrestlers' name on there, Taker and Stone Cold and probably Foley. But I thought it was especially telling that on top of Bruno Sammartino, he reached out and even invoked the name of Gorilla Monsoon. And let's face it, the modern day WWE fan does not know Gorilla Monsoon from their grand uncle Gus. All right? The people that understand and know who Gorilla Monsoon are the people that came up like me, the younger generation, the generation that came up at the initial stages of WrestleMania, when the Survivor Series was being brought out, when the Royal Rumble was being introduced. So just right there, he's adding credibility to me as a professional wrestling fan. And with what he just said right there was absolutely brilliant, because he wasn't attacking. He was just pointing out that in his young career, he hasn't earned the level that the legends before him that he wants to put himself at that level with. He hasn't gotten there. And then this right here, the last few minutes of this segment, Jon Stewart essentially destroyed Seth Rollins and made me a big fan of Jon Stewart.
You thought you could take a shortcut. You thought you could take a shortcut by cheating, by becoming the poster boy for the Authority.
I love this line.
Well, let me tell you something about posters, boy. They get taken down when people get tired of them. And I'm going to tell you this. You may be stronger than me. You may be better looking than me. You may be taller than me. You may be able to lift your arms above your shoulders, which I used to be able to do but can't. But let me tell you this. I have something you'll never have, and that's respect. You think the Authority's going to back you up? The Authority doesn't care about you, Rollins. I'll prove it to you. Listen to me. I have your attention now. Now this is good. Settle down, cats and jammers. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen, we'll go to the Olsen twins later. Let me talk to you. The authority doesn't care about you. If they cared about you, let me ask you a question. Who's fighting for the title at WrestleMania? Is it Seth Rollins? Is it Seth Rollins? Or is it Lesnar and Reigns? You're better in the ring, right? Are you better in the ring? You're better on the mic. So why aren't you fighting for the title? Let's think about this. No matter what happens at WrestleMania, whether Lesnar retains or Reigns wins, you're going to be left with nothing. You're going to be left holding your briefcase.
Which, to end that out, all right, you have a guest host who comes out, who is extremely polished in his delivery, all right? Now, like I said, I've been in the business 8 years. I've seen a lot of stuff, and it's rare when I'm watching Monday Night Raw or a pay-per-view or SmackDown that something really grabs my attention and perks my ears up. This right here, when the entire segment played out, not only were my ears perked up, was I sitting at attention, I had a big smile on my face because finally you have someone who comes in who knows and understands the product and can deliver. I don't know how much rehearsal he had to do his lines. That's why I think there has to be a tremendous amount of ad-lib that happened there. But let's face facts here. Jon Stewart, whether you're a fan of The Daily Show or not, since he's retiring, is it not entirely possible that Jon Stewart may have just gotten himself a job, either writing for WWE, heading creative, doing something, but you do not let someone like that go, who knows the history, who can deliver, and has generated interest. Jon Stewart is the first celebrity guest host that the WWE has brought in that I want to see back. I would not mind seeing him come back at WrestleMania. I would not mind to see him come back at Monday Night Raw again. What the hell? Let's get the authority out of power and put Jon Stewart as the commissioner of the WWE. Hell, he only has to travel 1 day a week. And you have instant charisma in a box. And again, what's striking about what happened with the Jon Stewart segment is you had a historian, somebody who could elicit a response from the people that grew up watching those names and being able to connect the dots from the San Martinos, from the Gorilla Monsoons, to the Foleys, to the Stone Colds, to the Undertakers, and everybody else in between. I mean, let's not forget, this is only like a 15-minute segment, so we can't go down the entire litany. Obviously, there's a ton of names that deserve to be within those dots. But it was what I thought going to be the biggest train wreck of 2015 to a segment that, and this is a word that I rarely ever use in the professional wrestling business, but that promo, that delivery, and that segment with Jon Stewart on Monday Night Raw was perfect. That was a perfect segment from start to finish. And I cannot wait, and I seriously hope that Vince McMahon and Triple H are getting on the phone to Jon Stewart's agent right now and trying to come up with some kind of a deal and some kind of position for him to be able to sit in and do something life after the Daily Show. Because, hey, let's face it, the guy's a free agent. He's very entertaining. You may or may not agree with what he says on his Daily Show, but hey, let's face it, he's a comedian first. He is the first person that will acknowledge that. So regardless of what he presents as the quote-unquote fake news on Comedy Central, in this role, he comes off as believable, he comes off as credible, and like I said, again, I would welcome him back on my TV for Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views, whatever, NXT even. Anytime he wants to come on, as long as he can deliver like that, that would be amazing. Looking at the list of WWE Hall of Famers going into the 2015 class, the announcement this past Monday night of Alundra Blaze, a.k.a. Medusa, being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2015. You want to talk about a night of surprises. That is a huge surprise. I caught wind of it a little bit earlier on over the weekend. I dropped it on Beyond Ringside that she was going to be inducted. It was confirmed last night. And, I mean, it's a huge surprise to me. Not because she's not deserving of it. Let's face it. AWA, she essentially was women's wrestling in the AWA. When she came over to the WWF back in the day, she essentially revitalized the women's division that had been completely forgotten about and nobody had any interest in. And she did it so well. She had 3 WWF Women Championships reigns. The reason it's a surprise is during the Monday Night Wars, some of you, well, hopefully most of you will remember, but some of you may remember that, you know, in the tradition of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall appearing on WCW TV unannounced, in the tradition of Rick Rude appearing on Raw and Nitro on the same night. And guess what? I know Eddie and Ryan Adcock were talking about it on, I believe it was the Saturday Showcase. The reason Rick Rude's not in the Hall of Fame is because he pulled that stunt. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to get in above Rick Rude because of that stunt. And it's going to take a long time for Vince to finally allow that to happen. So that's why Rude's not in the Hall of Fame, at least in my opinion. But Alundra Blaze comes in unannounced with the WWF Women's Championship belt. Now, you don't take one promotion's belt and go to another promotion with it. You just don't do that. And not only did she do that, but on live television, picked up the belt, dropped it in the trash can, and said, that's basically what I think of the WWF Women's Championship, which is one of the most pivotal visuals in the entire Monday Night Wars, dropping the belt in the trash. You have to wonder how much Triple H was involved in the smoothing over between Vince McMahon and Alundra Blaze. He had to have been the bridge to get her in the WWE Hall of Fame simply because he was the bridge that got the Warrior in. He got Bruno Sammartino. He is the one that has been going out and putting out all these fires and mending these bridges and reaching out with the olive leaf and bringing these people back into the fold so they get the recognition that they deserve. So with the history with Alundra Blaze and WWF/WWE, again, I was hugely surprised when I heard that she was going in. Congratulations to her. Now, here's the most interesting question that I have for you. Not so much as, who is going to induct her into the WWE Hall of Fame? I heard somebody make mention that Paul Heyman would be a great inductee or inductor for the WWE Hall of Fame. And I won't disagree with that, considering the amount of time that they spent in the Dangerous Alliance together back in WCW. I will not disagree with that. However, and more interesting, and I think to draw more eyes, not only to sell more tickets to the Hall of Fame, but to draw more eyes to the WWE Network and maybe get some more subscriptions out of it. Who knows? What about Eric Bischoff inducting Alundra Blaze, a.k.a. Medusa, into the WWE Hall of Fame? If you don't have the network right now and you heard that that moment was going to happen live on the network, you cannot tell me that as a wrestling fan, you would not go and drop your $9.99 to go watch that speech live as it happens and then watch WrestleMania the next day for $10 for the entire month. Really? I mean, the only reason I have it is, quite frankly, I'm doing a talk show about WWE, so it kind of, pays for me to talk about watch the product that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, I personally want to see Eric Bischoff induct Alundra Blaze into the WWE Hall of Fame, just for selfish reasons. Like I said, it's going to draw people's attention to the network. And quite frankly, I would love to hear that explanation and, just see the look on people's face as Eric details from point A to point Z, how everything came along, kind of, rub it in WWE's face a little bit more. Why not? And then have Alundra come out and say whatever she's going to say. Who knows what she's going to say? But yeah, that to me, that sounds like the better of the two choices, having, with no disrespect to Paul Heyman, because let's face it, Paul Heyman is a great orator. He knows how to talk, and he does it rather well. And he does have history with Medusa. But if you're going to put the woman in the Hall of Fame with the iconic, there's that word again, iconic imagery of her dropping the belt in the trash, why not get the architect out there to induct her, because he was the one responsible for making that visual happen. He essentially is the one that solidified her entrance into the WWE Hall of Fame. Agree or disagree? You can call in with your opinions, 208-643-0102. Also on the chat room at BeyondRingside.com. 8:57 here in the Mountain Time Zone, 10:57 out in the Eastern Time Zone. And if you don't know where you are, just look at a watch. That's what time it is. We're going to step away, take a quick break. When we come back, Sting versus Triple H, WCW versus WWE, the final battle. How will this all play out? We'll talk about that and more when we come back on the show. This is the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network and the Beyond Ringside app. We'll be back.
The To Be Determined Show live Wednesday nights, 9 Central Standard Time. Join myself, the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, the Grand Design, Clyde Braddock, and the Magic City Motor Fast Eddie Lane as we take you to the edge of uncensored. Yes, we go uncensored, so make sure you have your earmuffs. Ask your parents, for those of you that are a little young, maybe under 18, but make sure if you have any heart conditions or any mental defects, please listen, because they may take effect right here live every Wednesday night, 9 Central Standard Time. Beyond Ringside Radio Network, BeyondRingside.com.
Howdy, friends. This is the Magic City Motormouth, Fast Eddie Lane, with your invitation to join yours truly, along with Mark Mabo Bowman and the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, every Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, for Beyond Ringside Live. Wrestling, mixed martial arts, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Keep your eyes open on BeyondRingside.com for all of upcoming show information, and of course, catch us on social media as well. Until then, we'll see you this Sunday, 6:30 Eastern, for Beyond Ringside Live on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Welcome back to the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I'm the voice, Ted Guinness. And it's almost a shame to talk over that sweet groove, but I gotta do it. I'm gonna say right now that of the music that I've played so far on the show, the music that I have coming back from break number 2, this little gem right here, this is my favorite. Figured I'd throw that out there for you. This is the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. We have been talking tonight about Jon Stewart on Raw. We've run down the WrestleMania 31 card. We talked about Alundra Blaze going into the WWE Hall of Fame. I do want to go ahead and fill out the roster of announced inductees as announced so far. The Bushwhackers, Luke and Butch, stars in the WWF back in the late 80s, early 90s, also known as the New Zealand Sheepherders, prior to coming to the WWF. Arnold Schwarzenegger is going into the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame. I have no problem with that one. Not like Drew Carey. Boy, was that a boner on WWE. Let's get Drew Carey to get into the WWE celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. Really? That's when I need my Miz sound effect. I gotta get my soundboard all set up here for the next show so I can just sit here and just jab Miz going, really, over and over again. Yeah, that wouldn't lose a lot of listeners and be really annoying, but hey, what the hell? It's my show. Rikishi also making it into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2015, the father of two-time WWE Tag Team Champions, twin sons Jimmy and Jay the Usos, and of course being headlined by the most deserving member not in the WWE Hall of Fame right now, and that is the late, great Macho Man Randy Savage. And it saddens me as much as I love the fact that Savage is going into the Hall of Fame. It saddens me that we are not going to get the same type of emotional speech that we got from the Ultimate Warrior when he came back and was inducted last year. It saddens me that we're not going to get one more deep growly, oh yeah, out of the Macho Man Randy Savage, yeah. It hurts. It hurts as a fan who grew up watching Savage and Hogan, and back in the late 80s, WrestleMania 4, when Savage won the title against Ted DiBiase in the WWF title tournament at WrestleMania 4, all the way through WrestleMania 5, when Hogan and Savage exploded, the Mega Powers exploded. You were either a Hogan or you were either with Savage. And 99% of the people out there were with Hogan because he was the legend in WWE. He was the guy, and everybody loved to cheer for him. But on the other side of the coin, you had people like me who appreciate the sneaky, who appreciate the flesh, of Randy Savage. So for me, it's very bittersweet that it took until after he passed away for him to get into the WWE Hall of Fame, but it is well-deserved. Hulk Hogan is expected to induct him into the Hall of Fame, and I'm very curious to see if it's going to be Randy's brother Lanny coming out to give the acceptance speech. And if that is the case, I don't know if that's the case yet or not, but if that is the case, that should be a very emotional speech in its own right, but it still just won't be the same because we won't be hearing from a legend, the man that can never be imitated, the man that you can never, if you're a young, aspiring wrestler, don't try to emulate Randy Savage because it can't be done. I'm just telling you that right now. Find someone else to emulate. Find someone else's style to work. Don't try to be Randy Savage because there is only one, and you will kill your career as a Randy Savage impersonator, an imposter, and it's not worth it. Find someone else to emulate. Before we went to the last break, I did mention that I wanted to talk about Sting versus Triple H, the match, WCW versus WWE. I'm going to get into that in a second. I want to go and I do have a piece of WWE news that has kind of slipped under the radar for most fans. And that is, I don't know if you have noticed, but on the WWE.com website, and I'll get to your Rebel, I'll get to your question in a second. On the WWE website, Rey Mysterio's profile has been moved from the active roster down to the alumni section. And what does that mean? It means that Rey Mysterio is no longer under contract with the WWE. He is free to go do his own thing. He has been trying to get out of his contract for a while. WWE has been extending it just due to his injuries. And finally, that contract has expired. There's a lot of talk about him going to Lucha Underground at some point, teaming back up with his good friend Conan. So look for that in the future. But also announced this past week, Rey Mysterio will be appearing for AAA down in Guadalajara, Mexico on March the 15th at the promotion's Rey de Reyes event. And he will be teaming up with Alberto El Patron, which is the former Alberto Del Rio, and Mystices, the original Sin Cara, at the International Tournament of Lucha Libre on May the 23rd. So it looks like life for Rey Mysterio after WWE is starting early. And you know, we're talking about the WWE Hall of Fame. Rebel in the chat room does make a good point that Jay Lethal did pretty well as Black Machismo. I think there was a little bit of a blessing from Randy Savage to Jay Lethal to do that, and I'll go on record. You're absolutely right. Lethal did great as Black Machismo. And I think it's because he had that blessing. But anybody else, especially a young up-and-comer, no. Do not try to be Randy Savage. You will be laughed out of every single locker room and every single ring that you ever try to perform in. Case closed, period, end of story. Rebel also in the chat room at BeyondRingside.com does ask, what about Elizabeth? And I was thinking about that last night. Does it break my heart that Savage and Elizabeth are not going in at the same time? Yes, it does. Is Elizabeth very deserving? Yes, she is, because essentially she was the first diva of the WWF era, now WWE. The question is, would Elizabeth's family allow it? I think maybe the holding point between her eventually getting into the WWE Hall of Fame. But, you know, when it comes down, Rebel, to the WWE Hall of Fame, I think they have a vision a couple of years ahead of time of who they want to get in there. And then based on fan response and how much pressure there is on fans that they want these people recognized in the WWE, that's when they start picking and choosing these people that they really start going, especially if there's been an estrangement with the company. That's when they're going to go out and Triple H is going to be leading the charge to try to mend the fences and smooth things over and try to get, the powers that control those things for someone that's unfortunately passed away to allow them to finally be honored. And I expect to see Elizabeth in the WWE Hall of Fame in about 5 years, maybe 6. It's going to take a while, I think, after, especially with the outpouring of love and adoration that the WWE is giving to Randy Savage with the DVD of the Randy Savage story, which if you haven't seen is absolutely excellent. Highly recommend that you go out and check that out. And there's a lot of whatever ill will existed between Savage and Vince and WWE, that's all water under the bridge, and I just expect it to happen again with Elizabeth. I expect it to happen maybe in about 5 years down the line after the heat between Rey Mysterio and WWE finally dies down. And with Rey, you have to consider him a WWE Hall of Famer, simply because, let's look at his title career in WCW and WWE. ECW didn't have any titles, but he really brought the lucha scene in with the Juventud Guerreros, with the Psychosis, with the Super Crazies. He brought that lucha style over and was able to work with the Eddie Guerreros and the Dean Malenkos and the Chris Benoits and the smaller wrestlers and put on tremendous matches. When he got to WCW, 5-time WCW Cruiserweight Champion. He was a WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Champion with Kidman, 3-time WCW World Tag Team Champion, 1 time with Kidman, once with Conan, once with Juventud Guerrera. And then he comes over to the WWE after WCW goes out of business. 2-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion, 1-time WWE Champion, and I don't know if I'm going to count that one. I don't know if you remember or not, but that was the night after CM Punk had left. It had been about a month on Monday Night Raw where they had a tournament to crown a new WWE champion, and then the winner of that match would have to defend his title later on in the show against John Cena, which obviously Rey Mysterio won the title, lost it to John Cena that night, and CM Punk came back. So I'm not sure if I'm going to count that one, but hey, a title is a title, so we'll go ahead and count that. 3-time WWE Cruiserweight Champion, twice the Intercontinental Champion, and 4-time WWE Tag Team Champion, once with Edge, once with RVD, once with the late, great Eddie Guerrero, and one time with Batista. He was also the winner of the 2006 Royal Rumble match. It was the longest time in Royal Rumble history at 1 hour, 2 minutes, 12 seconds. I went back and did some research on this too, because I always question that. Every year when the WWE puts out their numbers of the Rumble promotional video that they do. So I went back and I looked, and yes, it is a full 23 seconds longer than Chris Benoit in 2004, and Ray went longer 1 year prior to the Chris Benoit murders. So it wasn't something that the WWE needed to do to try to give somebody a little bit more of a rub to try to erase a blemish off of their history books. This was done prior to the Benoit murders. So this, at that time, showed that the faith that WWE had in Rey Mysterio and the fan base to really carry the ball. So, yeah, Rey Mysterio, 5 years Hall of Fame, probably no doubt on that one. 208-643-0102. I'm going to push Sting and Triple H back to the next segment because there's a thought on there that I came up with last night, and I really want to take the time, and we're coming up probably at about another 10 minutes to the bottom of the hour break, and I really want to allow myself enough time to really get into some of my thoughts on that. So we'll talk about some of the other things going on with the WWE. Specifically, we did talk about the WWE Network, and I'm not... Okay, let's right here. I'm not paid by WWE. I'm not taking Vince McMahon's money. I am pimping the WWE Network a little bit because I find value in it. One, I have to pay for it because I have to watch the content of the stuff that I'm talking about on the show, on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network and the Beyond Ringside app. That one's just for you, Eddie. But because there are some really good stuff on there. And if you haven't been watching NXT is, to me, I have a special place in my heart for NXT because to me, NXT is what I did down at Deep South Wrestling, jacked up. I'm not going to say on steroids because that would be a wellness violation, and I don't need to get suspended for 30 days out on my first show. So I'm going to say jacked up, not on steroids. So there's a very special place in my heart for NXT, and I really love what they're doing. What Triple H is doing down in NXT with the training of everybody, the formats, the way that he's putting his TV show together, and it's starting to turn into a touring brand, which is something that Deep South Wrestling definitely was sorely lacking, throughout their brief history with WWE. That's one thing that we rarely did. We didn't tour much. We did a couple of shows at the Six Flags over Georgia. We did a show at the Auto Show at the Georgia World Congress Center. And then we did a show down in some town called Gray, Georgia that drew 8 people and the top rope broke. Good times. But the guys that they have going nowadays, you have the Sami Zayns, the Adrian Nevilles, they're getting ready to get called up to the main roster. They are phenomenal. I don't even know why they're still down at NXT at this point. Kevin Owens has come in. He still needs some WWE polish, but he is already a very polished performer, now holding the NXT Heavyweight Championship, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that match at WWE Rival or NXT Rival on the WWE Network, once the show's over, don't want you to rush out now because I still have another 40 minutes to go on this thing. Go watch Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn for the NXT title, because for me, it had something that was seriously lacking, especially with a lot of the WWE product, is just pure out and out I'm not going to say violence or intent, but just pure destruction of and no remorse from Kevin Owens delivering multiple power bombs to Sami Zayn, head bouncing off the canvas, concussion, couldn't finish the match. Kevin Owens gets the NXT championship. And, I'm loving watching Kevin Owens. I love watching Sami Zayn. I love a lot of things about NXT. And speaking of NXT and the NXT championship, it has been announced Kevin Owens will defend his NXT championship against the winner of the number one contenders tournament for the NXT championship, and that's going to be Finn Balor on March 25th. No word yet whether that's going to be one of the big NXT specials. It would make absolute sense leading into WrestleMania, really draw a huge buzz for the network before they go into their WrestleMania 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week coverage leading up to the big show. Also, I don't know if you watched last night's episode of NXT, but here's something that really reaches out to me that you're not going to see on Monday Night Raw for a long time, and that is two women wrestlers. Now, they don't call them divas. Well, they call them divas down there, but they don't call it a divas title. They call it the women's title. Two women wrestlers, Charlotte and Sasha Banks, not only main evented NXT, had plenty of time, but they had an incredible match. And it just goes to show Triple H's fingerprints all over this, giving them the time, letting them tell a tremendous story, and then putting them in the main event position. I'm hoping, against all hope, that this is what the future of WWE is going to be with the women's division. I want them to get rid of the word divas, which will never happen, but I want them to get rid of the divas championship and bring it back to a women's championship, and let the women that they have in WWE who can wrestle, like Natty Neidhart, like Paige, like AJ Lee, as long as she's still going to be there. Naomi, who's making tremendous strides and is a solid number 4 on that list. But you have Charlotte, you have Sasha Banks down there. Bayley is not bad. Bayley could get called up and do some stuff. And I don't know if you noticed, Emma's now back in NXT, which is absolutely great. Let them repackage her, because she did absolutely nothing for me and pretty much all of the people that would go watch the shows. So it's good to see her back and getting repackaged. Let's see if they can do it right this time. And one final angle coming out of NXT last night, and I'm kind of stoked about it, because I always thought he was a rather underappreciated and underrated wrestler, and if given time, he could do some tremendous things. And now Alex Riley is going to be getting back in the ring, and let's call it like it is. From one wrestling announcer to another, Alex Riley was a tremendous asset to NXT and the WWE pre-shows that they were putting on the network before Raw, before SmackDown, before pay-per-views. And it's good to see that he's finally getting out from behind the announce table and getting back in the ring. He's going to have a match on next week's NXT episode, taking on CJ Parker. So I'm looking forward to that. Good to see A-Rod getting back in the ring. One final note before we head to the bottom of the hour break. It was announced earlier that SummerSlam was supposed to be at the Izod Center in New Jersey. It is now going to be moved to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, August the 23rd. The reason it moved from the Izod Center is because that arena closed down for good pretty much this month, forcing the pay-per-view to be relocated. 25 past the top of the hour here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. This is the show. I am the voice, Ted Guinness. I can't believe I've been talking for almost 90 minutes now, and I still have another 35 minutes to go here on the debut episode of the show. If you want to get on, 208-643-0102. This is the show. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Smart Rage from Wrestle Rage Radio, coming to you from the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Join myself and my co-host, Super Stan Grubb, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern as we present Wrestle Rage Radio, where we rant and rave on everything in the world of pro wrestling. Sometimes we'll have a guest. Sometimes it'll be just me and Stan BSing about the sport that we love, pro wrestling. Check us out. Tune in Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, only on the Beyond Ringside Network.
Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
Minutes, we'll call it, to the top of the hour here on the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. And just listening to that music made me think that I was watching a jobber in WCW come down to the ring to face Scott Norton, the NWO B team. Doesn't it, though? Some bleach blonde dude with a mullet and a porn stash wearing green tights and white boots. That's that music. We have the WCW jobber music on the show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Wow, it's been an hour and a half of pure fun. We are on the final track here for the debut show of the show here on Beyond Ringside. First and foremost, want to just go ahead and say thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight and put up with my rambling for 2 hours. Quite honestly, I can't stand to listen to myself talk for 2 hours. So for everybody that was out there that put up with this, congratulations. You deserve a medal. Go grab yourself a Happy Meal, and don't be afraid to supersize that Coke, because damn it, you deserved it. And speaking of people that deserve things, if you are listening to me tonight from Memphis, Tennessee, and you paid your money to go and watch WWE Fastlane, I want everybody in Memphis, Tennessee that paid to go see Fastlane, I want you to put your head closer to the speakers. I want you to make sure that your earbuds are in nice and tight and that you're listening, because I have a very special message just for you out in Memphis, Tennessee. Are you ready? You suck. You suck. You guys were given a great main event and let's be honest, a couple of great matches and a tremendous segment. Two tremendous segments with Sting and Triple H and Bray Wyatt doing the Undertaker gimmick. Plus you had Goldust and Stardust. You had Dean Ambrose and Bad News Barrett. And you had a tremendous main event between Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. And you guys were pathetic. I know that you pay your money. You guys get to do whatever you want. But to go to a show and to be given that and to see how hard these guys worked for no appreciation, Memphis, Tennessee should now officially be on double secret pay-per-view probation. No pay-per-views for the next 3 years. And, you know, this is a wrestling hotbed, Memphis. It's the home of Jerry friggin' Lawler. And you guys made yourselves look like complete and total fools. So right there, no pay-per-views for the next 3 years. Memphis, Tennessee, double secret pay-per-view probation. You suck. And I probably lost 15 listeners in Memphis, but who cares? Okay. I want to finish off the show, and I'm glad I have a good amount of time to do this because we talked earlier in the show when we were running down the card for WrestleMania 31 with Sting and Triple H. I talked about WCW versus WWE, the iconic imagery, the history between the two companies, everything that's been done to really advance the storyline with Triple H and Sting. And, of course, Sting doing what Sting does best and not having to say the word is putting this feud way over the top. But the question is okay, first off, is this the final battle? And I'll get to that in a second. But the question I have is, how does this all play out? You know Sting doesn't come to the WWE to come in and put Triple H over. It doesn't happen. So unless they plan on pulling a massive screw job, Sting has to win this match. I mean, this is the match that has to show respect to tradition and history, and the one guy that Vince could never bring under his fold is finally there and making his in-ring debut as a wrestler in WWE on the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania 31, against a surefire Hall of Famer, 13-time World Heavyweight Champion, all the accolades that Triple H has, COO on TV, VP, Executive Vice President of Talent Relations and Live Events and Developmental. I mean, we don't have to compare resumes. What we do have to compare, though, is the historical significance of this match and what this does really to either legitimize or delegitimize the version of the Monday Night Wars that WWE has put out on the WWE Network, which, let's face it, history is written by the victors, and they have done a tremendous job of homogenizing a lot of the positive advances that WCW had during that war and almost making them trivial. But the one thing that they were never able to trivialize is the impact that Sting had on WCW, especially during the hotbed era between WCW and the NWO when Sting went from the bleach blonde babyface that everybody loved to the dark, brooding, mysterious crow gimmick, and again, doing the same thing then that he's doing now in this whole setup with Triple H in not saying a word. And it's working perfectly because you see the frustration that Triple H has. He snuck attacked him. He tried to hit him with the sledgehammer. Sting was one step ahead of him with the baseball bat. Put him in the corner, pointed to the WrestleMania sign. Boom. We have our history in the making. But if Sting does win this match, what happens then? Does he completely disappear? And let me throw another twist to that. What happens if Brock Lesnar loses to Roman Reigns? So now you have two extremely valuable commodities in WWE, in Paul Heyman and Sting sitting on the sidelines. You take Paul Heyman, you put him behind the scenes creative of WCW. Sting can finally take the shell of the crow gimmick off because he's had his WrestleMania moment, and you put him as the figurehead of the new WCW. Now, I know that there's a lot of people out there probably groaning right now, but hear me out for a second. Hear me out. Listen to where I'm coming from. Okay. You have a number of guys on your roster that you're paying to sit at home. You have guys that are on your roster that are not quite fitting in. They're not bad enough for NXT, but they're not good enough for any major real recognition. So WWE already brings out these sets for their live shows, their live events, and sometimes they'll bring out cameras. So what you can do is on these live events, you can do the first hour of these live events are going to be taped as WCW TV and shown Tuesday night on the network. You have original content. If you're worried about money, well, you already have the cameraman there. You already have the sets. You already have the props. You don't need to fly announcers in to call the show live. You can have them do the voiceover dubs back at WWE Studio over the weekend. So case in point, Saturday night out in Milledgeville, Georgia. I'll just throw a name out there from my past. Shout out to my friend Dropkick Steven Styles, who does TBD on Wednesday nights. Okay, Milledgeville, Georgia. they have WWE Live. Well, the first hour you have like Heath Slater, you have Bo Dallas, who's made it to the big roster, but you can't bring him back down to NXT. You have all these guys, Adam Rose, these people that are languishing, trying to get some TV time. Let them operate under the WWE-controlled umbrella of WCW. Tape a show at a live event on Saturday night. Send the tape to Stamford on Sunday. Monday, you have Be Announced team. Maybe from NXT, maybe someone else you're grooming. Who knows? But you bring them in. They call, and there you have WCW. It's inexpensive. It's using a commodity and using the historical significance between Sting and Triple H, WCW versus WWE. It is a logical launching point if you want to go that way. It makes use of a commodity that you are pushing heavily with the WWE network. You're using a nostalgia figure who got his main event WrestleMania moment, now using him as an authority figure and revitalizing WCW as another viable brand. Now look at it this way. You have NXT, WCW, Raw, and SmackDown. Obviously WCW would run with Raw or SmackDown house shows. NXT is going to continue to do their own things, but you have 4 different brands. You're essentially creating competition within yourself, which if there's one thing that is seriously lacking in professional wrestling right now, it's viable competition. I'm not going to say that Superstars and NXT and Main Event right now are viable competition for what they're putting out on Monday and Thursday nights, but it gives you more eyes on your product in a different vein while utilizing these talents that you're paying while they're sitting at home, not doing anything, wondering what the hell is going on, when their next show is. It gives these guys an opportunity to not have to go back down to NXT and interrupt everything that's going on down there, because right now, let's face it, you don't want to interrupt NXT because it's running better than a Swiss watch. It is almost flawless right now. So you don't mess with that. So you create, and that's what ingenious businessmen do. They create opportunity out of nothing. And right now, WCW is nothing. It's sitting on a shelf. There are merchandising opportunities. There, again, you have the name brand opportunities, and you can bring in some of these older veterans to operate within the confines of a WWE-controlled WCW. Guys like Rhino, guys like the Brian Kendrick, who are coming back to NXT and helping out some of the younger guys. Well, hey, let's go ahead and throw them a little bit of an extra bone as a reward for helping out these guys. Let's put them in a more prominent position as the veterans within WCW and use them to build up the younger talent and the talent that we're neglecting, that we currently have under contract but we don't have any room for because we have so much to try to book within so many hours of the day. We don't have any more hours of the day. Guess what? You have a network. You have the camera people. It would take a financial investment, yes. It would take logistical planning, yes. But it is, to me, it is more reward than risk. And I don't see how it could be possibly a detriment. And I think that is more historically important with Sting versus Triple H at WrestleMania than the way that the match ends. It's what can that match do for the future. And if this happens, great. I'm glad that they thought of this. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to sit here and scratch my head and wonder why. To me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to leave a valuable commodity on the shelf and not use it. But again, that's just me. Going to We're going to step away, take another break, and then wrap up the debut edition of the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network and the Beyond Ringside app. Still time to call in if you want to talk about anything that we have discussed here on the program tonight. 208-643-0102. Now's the time to do it. Last call on the show. It's the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Hey everyone, this is the Cause, Robert Cosper, host of Cause and Effects Thursday Night Radio Throwdown. This is your invitation to join me, along with the Effects Stuart Couch, Mad Dog Dan Sawyer, and all of the craziness that is C&E, right here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. It's wrestling radio with a twist, and some might just say with a twist of lime when the bar is open. Cause and Effect, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Hey, this is Stan Grubb for Wrestle Rage Radio, right here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself and Smart Rage as we discuss the professional wrestling business from WWE, TNA, and all things in between. We'll have an interview here or there. We'll see what we can do to just keep you entertained. And along the way, we're going to have to bring up some emotion and make you think. That's what we like to do. So join us here on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you at Wrestle Rage.
Eight minutes to the top of the hour here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am the voice, Ted Guinness. Glad to have you with me here on the debut episode of the show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I want to thank Rebel for participating in the chat room. And as the show goes on, we're going to pay more attention to the chat room. So on BeyondRingside.com, if you want to chat about it, anything that we're talking about, that's where you want to do it. You can also call in 208-643-0102 if you're listening to this on the replay, which essentially means if it's not 11:53 Eastern Time on Thursday, March 5th, 2015, you're listening to this on a replay, don't call the show. I won't answer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn my Skype off as soon as the show's over, so yeah. Coming up on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, Saturday morning, the Saturday morning showcase with Fast Eddie Lean and Friends comes back to Beyond Ringside, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Sunday, the flagship program, Beyond Ringside at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, with Fast Eddie Lane, Mark Mabo Bowman, and the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, followed by Wrestle Rage at 9 Eastern and the Midnight Black Mass at 11. Then next week, Back to Basics returns to the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, everybody's favorite Trainwreck. And I say that lovingly, Wick, so don't be throwing hand grenades and coming at me with the Hitler boots and the Nazi mustache or whatever. The To Be Determined show, folks. If you haven't listened to this show and you are not squeamish at all about profanity, take a listen, because you will hear some of the most original conversation as it revolves around independent wrestling. That's your source. That is the show of record for indie wrestling, in my opinion, on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. And then, of course, next Thursday, we're back with the Thursday night double play, Cause and Effect at 8, followed by Season 1, Episode 2 of the brand new experience known as The Show. I am the voice, Ted Guinness. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in tonight for the debut episode. I will be back again next Thursday night, right when SmackDown goes off the air. That's when I go live, and we're going to talk about all things WWE. 24 days until WrestleMania 31 at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California, Sunday, March 29th, 2015. Special start time of 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. And again, if you're going to WWE Fan Access, if you're going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, just make sure that you have plenty of time. You leave extra early to get to your destination, because traffic around there can be a nightmare. And we want to make sure that you get to these events and to WrestleMania and then back home as safely as possible. For my producer tonight, which is me, Ted Guinness, For my call screener tonight, which is me, Ted Guinness, I am the voice, Ted Guinness, saying thank you again for listening to the show. We'll see you next week right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Have a good night.